Tomorrow we'll figure that.
No problem. Yeah, this one is
I'll post it every time somebody comes today.
Thank you. I'll take it. Okay, so the month of where everything turns around, getting close to the month of Nisan, the month of miracles. So we should see results on the ground in Eretz Yisrael. Nisan, Beneflois, complete victory for you. Lam Natseach Mizmer LeDavid. Yancho Adonai b'Yom Tzara. Sageb Hashem Elohei Yaakov. Yishlach Ezecha Mikodesh u'Mitzion Yisadecha. Yizkar Kol Menchesecha Ve'eloscha Yidashne Sela. Yitin Lecha Chilvavecha V'chol Atzascha Yimale. Meran Rabbi Shem Eloheinu Nidgul. Yimale Adonai Kol Meshale Secha. Ato Yudaiti, Shia Adonai Mashiach. Ya'anehu Mishmei Koche, B'gvureis Yesha Yemine, Eile Barechev, Eile Basusim, V'anachnu B'Shem Adonai Eloheinu Naskim. Hema Korban Afolo, V'anachnu Kamnu V'Naseda, Adonai Shia, Melech Yaneinu V'Yem Koreinu. We refilled our tzedakah. So someone could take this, pass it around. Okay. Now, I can do the terms that I wanted to do for the mimer. One of those days. Hopefully I'll do it tomorrow. For the time being, will now be, hopefully we'll go back to that. We now start Pesach. So we're going to learn about Pesach Chassidus. And of course, it's understood that there are dozens and dozens of Maimarim from the Alter Rebbe, the Victor Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, the Rebbe Marash, Rebbe Rashab, Frierdiker Rebbe, and our Rebbe, hundreds of Sichas and Maimarim, and each one says something different, so there's so much to learn. So the purpose of this is take more or less the basic, most common subjects that are talked about in the Maimarim that will give us a general understanding of Pesach from a Chassidic perspective. On the first page, we just have the subjects which we're going to be learning about. One of them is Chodesh Nisan, which is a very big part of it. True, the Yontif is Pesach, but it was the month of Nisan, and that's considered the beginning of the year, as we'll soon see. Then we will learn about Chag Pesach, why it's called Pesach. We'll learn about the mitzvah of eating matzah, al pi Chassidus, the Isur of eating chametz, al pi Chassidus. What does it teach Mitzrayim from a Chassidic perspective? Good morning. And what is the Korban Pesach from a Chassidic perspective? What all the Eser Makers that the Egyptians had wasn't just Hashem beating them, but it also has deep spiritual significance. Why 10? Why these 10? Why in this order? Number 8 is Shabbos HaGadol. That's the Shabbos before Pesach, has a special name and a special place in Halacha. It's called Shabbos HaGadol, the Big Shabbos. Number 9 is to talk about the 4 cups of wine that we drink. Ordinarily, we make Kiddush on wine, Shabbos, Kiddush on wine on Yontif, but Pesach, we drink 4 cups of wine. We'll go into that. Of course, Yetzias Mitzrayim versus the Geula, how they're similar, how they're different. You can't talk about the story of Mitzrayim without explaining the deeper meaning of Kriyas Yamsuf. Number 12 is all about Achash Pesach. Number 13 is about Yud Aleph Nisan, the Rebbe's birthday. talk about whatever we can to give a little bit of background and what it's about, and how Chassidus celebrated and what it means to us, and so on and so forth. So you're wondering how we're going to have enough time to cover all this. And the answer is because everyone's going to come exactly 8:30, and we're going to have a full 3/4 of an hour. In fact, we're planning to make a little schedule of starting a little bit earlier. We'll soon see. But next week, each class will be an hour. Right. So we'll come to a point we're not going to have what else to learn. So don't worry about it. Okay, so let's start with page 3. So page 3 is about the significance of Chodesh Nisan, again from a Hasidic perspective. First, let's look what it says in Chumash, what it says in Torah in general. So that's on page 5. Vayomer Hashem al Moshe ve'al Aaron be'eretz Mitzrayim leimer. Hashem told Moshe and Aaron, and this prophecy and this command came in Mitzrayim, and the words were, HaChodesh hazeh lachem, this month should be for you, Reish Chadashim, the beginning of the months. Rishon hu lachem, this is the first of the months of the year. So we know that Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of the year, and yet we say here that the month of Nisan is the beginning of the year. So what does that mean? And the answer is, as far as the year is concerned, Rosh Hashanah, which is the head of the year, the beginning of the year is Tishrei. As far as the months are concerned, the beginning is Nisan. So it means there's 2 ways to count the year. One is as a year, and one is month by month. As a year, we start with Tishrei. And month by month, we start with Nisan. So in fact, in the Chumash, when the Torah refers to Tishrei, it doesn't call it the beginning of the year. The Torah refers to it as the 7th month. So, what does it say in Chassidus about this? So let's go back to page 3, which are different points of what it says in Chassidus. It says like this: they're both Rosh Hashanah. Now, what does Rosh Hashanah mean? Again, from a Hasidic perspective. So we know when we learned about this on Rosh Hashanah that why is it called Rosh Hashanah? There are other names in Hebrew that could have been used. For example, Tchilas Hashanah. The word Tchila in Hebrew means beginning, the beginning of the year. Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of the year, but also has the meaning of the head of the year. So it's explained in all the Maimarim that the reason why Rosh Hashanah is called the head of the year and Rosh Chodesh is called the head of the month is because it's because of the analogy that it's like the head versus the body. That's how this day versus the rest of the year. Just like the head doesn't only lead the body, but the head doesn't only control different organs in the body, but the brain is the place where all the life force, the neshama, that comes into the person, first it comes to the brain. From the brain, it spreads to the rest of the body. And we just talked about this a little bit, that there's a famous Perek in Tanya, which is Perek Nun Aleph. In that Perek, the Alter Rebbe draws a parallel between the human neshama and guf, how that's parallel to the Beis HaMikdash, that just like the neshama and the guf, the neshama is found in the brain primarily. From the brain, the life force and life energy spreads to all the organs of the body. The same is with the Beis HaMikdash. Not only is the Beis HaMikdash the place that Hashem's presence is more concentrated, Hashem's presence is more revealed, but it is also the place that Hashem's presence is found primarily. And from there, all the life force, the chayas to the whole world, comes from the Beis HaMikdash to every place else. Which means the fact that Hashem's presence is found all over the universe is a result of the fact that first it's present in the brain, which is the Beis HaMikdash, and from there it spreads to the rest of the world. And that's why when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, it didn't just affect the Beis Hamikdash, it affected the entire creation. Because that's the brain where the entire creation gets its life force from. In fact, one of the names to the Beis Hamikdash is Beis Chayenu, which literally means is the house of our life. I guess on a simple level, people interpret it to mean that we live the Beis Hamikdash, we're inspired by the Beis Hamikdash, it inspires us. That's of course true, but it's much deeper than that. Pasha, the life that the whole world has, the chayas, the godly life flow that's found in the whole world comes through and from the Beis Hamikdash. So it's because the same as in the body. The same applies to the year. That on Rosh Hashanah, the Eibishter makes a decision what's going to happen the entire year. But on Chassidus, it's not just like a decision, like a judge. It means that the actual chayas, the actual life flow of Hashem's chesed and all the other midos that are going to be the source of all the things happening from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, that chayas flows from Hashem and sort of is expressed from Hashem in a general way on Rosh Hashanah. And then from Rosh Hashanah is distributed day by day by day till the end of the year. So I guess the other analogy which will help us see from that perspective would be like a seed. That when you plant a seed, in essence, this seed already contains in it all the details of the tree, the trunk of the tree, the branches of the tree, the leaves of the tree, the fruits of the tree. They're all in the seed. But in the seed, they're all included in one little thing. And as time goes on, it spreads out and develops each thing as an individual. That's exactly how it works with the chayas. So Rosh Hashanah, and the same with Rosh Chodesh, is the day that all the chayas of the whole year is first on that day, and from there goes to the rest of the year. So this is what it's brought down in Kabbalah, and this is what Chassidus elaborates on, that in that sense, the first day of Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah, beginning of the year, spiritually, and the first day of Nisan is also the beginning of the year, spiritually. But the difference is, on Rosh Hashanah, all the chayas, all the life force of Hashem, that's going to bring all the natural things in the world, that comes down to this world on Rosh Hashanah, the first day of Tishrei. All the miracles that are going to happen throughout the year, the miraculous things above nature, the Rosh Hashanah for that is the first day of Nisan. So on that day, all the miraculous chayas, the life force of Hashem, which brings miracles, is drawn on that day, and then it's distributed throughout the year. So all the miracles that happen from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, when does it first begin? On the day of Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So that's what you're looking at. Number 2, Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah Lanhagat Tivis, is the Rosh Hashanah for the way Hashem leads the world in the natural order, and Nisan is Rosh Hashanah Lanhagat Nisis for the miraculous order. So naturally, you could see it in the name itself, that the word Nisan comes from the word miracles, same word as the word Nes. Not only that, but the Gemara says the letter Nun in itself represents a miracle, because it's the first letter of the word Nes. So if a person has a dream, and in his dream they see the word Nisan, they should know this is a sign that they're going to be witnessing and they're going to be experiencing miracles of miracles. Why? Because in the word of Nisan, there are 2 nuns, Nisan, and each nun represents a miracle. So that means they're going to be having miracles of miracles. What does miracles of miracles mean in simple English? It means it'll be such a miracle, even compared to miracles, it'll be a miracle. So now, this is also connected to a number of things down the line. I'll soon show you all the things that it's connected to. I'm not going to go in the exact order. I'm going to go in an order which may be easier to follow. So let's first start with number 6. Number 6 is found in Nigla. In in Mefarshim on the Gemara, Tosfos, when he asked the question, there's a machlekes, there's an argument between Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Lazar says that the world was created in Tishrei, which is what we go by. But Rabbi Yeshua says the world was created in Nisan. What? Oh, so the answer is that the Tosfos says both are true, both are emes. The only difference is in the month of Nisan, Hashem created the world b'dibur. In b'machshava, in the month of Tishrei, Hashem created the world b'dibur, which means just like a person who builds something, a person who builds a house. First, he has the plans in his head, what he wants to do. Then he goes ahead and he does it. So the thought precedes the action. Or the same with speech. If I want to speak, and I want my speech to have an impact, first I think about what I'm going to say, and then I say it. So the thought precedes the speech. Same with Hashem. First, Hashem created the world in a higher spiritual level, which is thought, and that was done in the month of Nisan. And then Hashem created the world on a lower level, which is speech. And that happened in the month of Tishrei. So that's consistent with what we just said. How is it consistent? Because thought is something which is more connected to the person. The reason why other people don't know what I'm thinking is thought is really me. Thought is actually a reflection of my soul. It's within me. And that's why speech is something which you could speak or you could not speak. In fact, everything Chassidus brings a pasuk. Eis ledaber, there's a time to speak and there's a time to be silent. Thought can be silent. As long as a person is alive, the thought is functioning. The thought is, you would think of it as a mirror in front of a person. As long as the person's there, the reflection will be in the mirror, no matter what he does. So as long as the neshama is alive, the thought will be active. And even when we're sleeping, the thought is active. And these are the dreams that we have. And if a person says, well, I sleep a whole night, Baruch Hashem, I don't have any dreams, it really means I don't remember my dreams, but the dreams are happening. The person's thought is functioning a whole night. So thought is something which is deeper connected to the person. It's more inner, it's more internal. And speech is something external, and it disconnects from the person. Same thing with miracles and nature. Nature is something which is more external. It's something where Hashem is more hidden and is disconnected from Hashem outwardly. And that's why people who lack belief in Hashem, because they have belief in nature, the nature conceals godliness, as we learned it numerous times this year. And miracles reveal godliness. So miracles are closer to Hashem and they're more connected to Hashem. So therefore, these two interpretations, that Rosh Hashanah for miracles is Nisan, and that the world was created in Nisan in thought, they're consistent. Another thing that it says in Chassidus is number 8. Tishrei is the Avodah for Balei Tshuva, and Nisan is the Avodah for Tzadikim. What does that mean? Tishrei, how did it come about? Because the Yidden worship, Gebishter gave us the Torah. And then the Yidden worshiped the golden calf, the Egel HaZahav. And then it was broken, the luchas were broken. And Yidden were doing tshuva and begging and pleading for forgiveness. And finally, on Yom Kippur, Hashem said, Salachti kitbarecha, you are forgiven. And then we got the Torah a second time. So the Tishrei that we experience, and the fact that there's all this yontav, and then there's all the joy following, is all connected to the fact that we did tshuva, and Hashem forgave us, and gave us the Torah a second time. So Tishrei comes about through the avodah of tshuva. Nisan, that's compared to the avodah of tzaddikim, which means it didn't come about through our avodah because we did this, or we did that, or we did another thing. The Yitzias Mitzrayim and the giving of the Torah the first time came mainly as a gift from above. In fact, the opposite is true. The Yidden were in the 49 gates of impurity, and yet they reached the highest heights. So it wasn't through their avodah of tshuva, it was a gift from Hashem, which is basically what a tzaddik is. Tzaddikim are people that, to begin with, are in a higher plane. Hashem gives them a higher neshama, and they serve Hashem on a much higher level. So Nisan and Tishrei represent these two types of avodah. And again, this is like miracles and nature. Miracles are more revealed godliness, that's tzaddikim. Nature is concealed godliness, that's Bali Tshuva. And the same is with thought and speech. Thought is revealing my neshama, and speech conceals my neshama. I know you're thinking, what do you mean conceals? The opposite is true. When I speak, I reveal what I'm thinking. What I mean by conceals is when I speak, it conceals what I'm really feeling inside. The Eibusher should help that today the hostages should be free. And imagine you can approach a hostage and say, so how do you feel today that you're free? I guarantee you, whatever word they're going to use in the dictionary, thesaurus, no matter which words they use, there's no way in the world those words could express to you what they're feeling. So words in their mind, in their thoughts, they feel what they feel. But when they speak, when a person speaks, it's not what's going on inside. It's the outline. It's almost like the skeleton of what's going on inside. And the same thing is also with intellect. When I'm not talking about intellect like 2 + 2 = 4, something deep. When a teacher who understands concepts on a very deep, abstract level explains it to the student, really what they're explaining the student and what they're telling the student is the outline, the skeleton, the way they know it and the way they understand it is so much deeper. Because what I know, when I'm thinking about something, is also enhanced by everything else that I know. All the background, all my knowledge in Nigla, in Chassidus, in Halacha, in Sichos, stories, whatever I know, everything contributes to the way I perceive whatever I perceive. So I know it the way I know it. When I tell it to another person, it's more words. Like I said, it's more an outline or a skeleton of what I know. But what I know has much more life to it than what's coming out with my mouth. So speech is concealment. Did I reveal what I mean? Mm-hmm. I see you thinking. Don't get it clearly?
No, I get it.
Get it.
But now I want to know everything that you're concealing, so.
Well, being that I'm not that brilliant, so if you think about it a little bit longer, you'll understand the same thing that I understand. So another thing which is connected to this is number 9. Number 9, let's look at the pasuk inside. I'm sure you remember this from Tishrei, because this you probably heard Tishrei about 33 times. But this is the famous pasuk, Ani l'doidi v'doidi li. So look at page 14, and then you look at page 15. No, page 16. 14, wait a second. Oh, it's 14 and 15a. On 14, it says, Ani l'doidi. Ani means I, and doidi is Hashem. So in English, they translate doidi as beloved, because doidi is an affectionate way of speaking about Hashem. Ani l'doidi v'doidi li, haroya b'sheshanim, who grazes his sheep in pastures like roses. Then look at page 15a. Mamish, the same words. Doidi li v'ani lo haroya b'sheshanim. There's no difference. The only difference is the order. So Chassidus says that if you look at the one on page 14, the first 4 words are Rosh Tevis Elul. Aleph, Lamed, Vav, Lamed. Which means Elul. And Tishrei is the time where Ani l'doidi, first I take the initiative to do tshuva and come close to Hashem. And then doidi li, then Hashem shows his love to me and allows me to feel his love. Nisan, which didn't come through our avodah, but it was a gift from above. We say the opposite. Doidi li, Hashem first took the initiative to reveal himself to us and reveal his love to us. And then, ani lo, and then we responded by showing our love to him and preparing for Torah and saying Nasa V'Nishma, but it all came as a result of his initiative of showing love to us. So generally speaking, that's the difference between tzaddikim and balei tshuva. That's number 9. Another thing related to this is number 5. There's an interesting thing about davening, that a lot of tefillas in the davening, in the siddur, if you look closely, you'll notice that they're in the order of the aleph base, like a shamnu. But there are 2 orders. Sometimes it's forward and sometimes it's backward. For example, look at page 8. This is every Shabbos. I don't know if you ever realized it, but Keilah, the song that we sing on Shabbos, on page 8, it's in the order of the aleph base. Keil Adar Kol HaMaisim is aleph. Baruch U'Mvarech Mafei Kol Neshama is beis. Godly V'Tuvah is gimel. Dalet Hey underlined each one. See it? Okay. Then look at page 9. Again, the same thing. But over here, it's not every few words, it's every single word. Keil, Baruch, G'dayel, Deya, Heichen, Afual, Zori, Chama, it's aleph beis, gimel, dal, hey, vav, zayin, ches. The whole aleph base is there. Till tough. Tamid. And then, of course, we have Ashrei. Ashrei starts with aleph. Then you have beis, gimel, dal, hey, vav. The only thing in Ashrei is that you're missing one letter, right? Which letter is that? Nun. Why are we missing nun?
No,
What?
no American.
No American?
American. No names. Miracle.
No miracle?
Names.
So it's a bad thing? It's a good thing.
No, it's like Hashem concealed. Like you just don't see, of course. It's like the American.
No, that would be my question. Why shouldn't it say nun? Nun stands for nisim, which is miracles. But the reason that's given, it needs more explanation, but just on the surface. The reason that's given is because nun is the beginning of the word neifel, which means to fall. So they didn't put in the nun. But nun also has a lot of good words like nisim. So that's a question for a tefillah class. When Rabbi Patil gets up there, he'll have the answer to the question.
Maybe 5 to 10 years.
Come back in 5 years, yeah. But now there are other places in davening. There are many, but I'm giving you an example of page 11. Page 11 is a Shmon Esrei we say on Shabbos. If you look over here, Tikanta Shabbos, look at the Shmon Esrei on page 11. We say the same thing, the order of the aleph base, but backwards. Tov, Shin, Reish, Kuf, Tzad, Pei, every single letter, the exact order, but in reverse. In the Siddur, it's not so much, but if you open a Machzor and you start paying attention, you'll see almost all the songs that are composed there, they're all in the order of the aleph base, a lot of them definitely, and yet some are aleph base gimel, and some are the backwards, Tov, Shin, Reish, Kuf, and so on. What is the difference? So Chassidus explains that each thing we have to go into it, what it means, but when it goes, the order from Aleph to Tav, that's going from top. Aleph is the first letter, which is on the top, and we're going from the top down. When we go backwards from Tav to Aleph, we're going from down up. So generally speaking, in the language of Chassidus, this is Mamayla Lamata, or Mamata Lamayla. So when we say that Hashem, for example, first reveals himself to us like in Mitzrayim, and as a result of that, we responded and showed our love to him, that's Mamayla Lamata. First came Mamayla from above, Hashem revealed his presence, and then we responded from below. So it came Mamayla Lamata. The initial starting point was from above. When we talk about the avodah of tshuva, is the opposite. we're down. We did an Avera, we did the Avera of Egel Azov, and now we lift ourselves to Hashem, and then Hashem comes down to us. This is the mashal that's always brought in Chassidus, and I'm sure it's very significant why they use this mashal of two people on a mountain and they want to come together. So there's two options. One option is that the person's on top of the mountain comes down to the foot of the mountain, and the other option is that the person at the foot of the mountain goes up to the top of the mountain. So one is called Mamailo Lamata, from up down, and the other one's from down up. So therefore, whenever you find a prayer that is aleph to tough, that means it's related to the pattern of from up down. Whenever you see a prayer that's from down up, that means it's related to from tough to aleph. It's related to something that the pattern is from down up. What is Mamaila Lamata and what is Mamata Lamaila? In each situation, in each scenario, in context of what it is, it will be different. But this is the general idea. I'm going to give you a few examples. First of all, where do we see this with Tishrei? Look at the word Tishrei. I'm looking now at number 5. The word Tishrei, how do you spell it? Tov, Shin, Reish. So which order is it? From down up. Because Tishrei is Tshuva. What about Pesach? We're not going to use the word Pesach. We use a different word. We use the word Aviv. Why am I using the word Aviv? Because in Chumash, it says that Pesach has to be in the spring. In fact, that's the reason why this year we have 2 Adars. Why do they make 2 Adars? Because Pesach must always be in the spring. If there wouldn't be 2 Adars, Pesach would be all different times of the year. Because the moon doesn't have the same cycle as the sun. So by making a second Adar, we're allowing the moon to catch up to the sun. And the main reason is that the Pesach should be in the spring. Just if you want to see the pasuk inside, the pasuk inside here is on page 12. Shamar es Chodesh Aviv, take heed for the month of spring, means pay attention to the month of spring, and you will celebrate Pesach l'Hashem Elokecha. Why? Because it was in the spring that Hashem took you out of Mitzrayim. Let's look at Rashi. Rashi says, what does it mean, take heed? When you tell someone, take heed, pay attention, it means to think about it before it arrives. Take heed that it is compatible with springtime. So you may bring the Omer Mincha offering. If not, add a month to the year, and then it'll come out in the spring. So that's the reason why we add a month to the year. Is that your booklet has somebody else's scribble in it?
Yeah, I think it's like Portuguese, maybe.
Okay, I can get you a different one. Okay,
It's
sorry.
okay, I just wrote it.
Okay, so that means that this is consistent with the idea that Pesach is Mamayla Lamata, so it's Aleph Beis Gimel, and Tishrei is Mamata Lamayla, so it's from down up, Tav Shin Reish, and goes that. No, but you don't need the whole Aleph Beis. All you need to do is see 2-3 letters, and you can see which direction you're going. You know, if you get on the train, you don't know which direction you're going. You don't have to go all the way to Manhattan to find out you're going to the wrong direction. If the next stop is Nostrand, that means you're going to Manhattan. If the next stop is Utica, you're going in the other direction. Very simple. Just one stop, and you'll figure out where you're going. So if it's Tav Shin, it's going from down up. If it's Aleph Beis, it's going from up down. Where else do we see this? Number 4. During Tishrei, that's when we ask this special tefillah for rain. That's on Shmini Atzeres. We ask for rain. During Nisan, we also have a special tefillah, the first day of Pesach, and we ask for dew. I'm going to show you inside in the Siddur. You look at page 6. This is what it says in the Chazan's repetition of Musaf Amid on the first day of Pesach. the prayer for do is recited. And then we change the words in davening, then we start saying different words because now we're davening for do. We're saying bracha. And that's Pesach. When you turn the page, what does it say? That on Shmini Atzeres, the Chazan repetition of Musaf says the prayer for rain. What is it between rain and dew? So the Gemara says rain is something that comes from down here. There's water. The water evaporates, goes up, comes including the clouds, and then that water comes down. So water of rain is Momata Lamaila. And therefore, in places where there is no lakes and water, there's no rain. Dew is something which the Gemara says always comes down, except for Brooklyn, I guess. But dew always comes down. It's not dependent on something down here that has to make it happen first. So therefore, dew is considered Momaila Lamata. For example, when the Gemara talks about Chiyas HaMesim, you often find the language, Hashem will send down the dew that will revive the dead. The analogy is just like dew comes down to the grass, the plants. At the end of the day, they all look dried up. And then the next morning, they're fresh and wet and as if revived. So Hashem will bring the dew to revive the dead. But the deeper meaning is also that dew is something that comes from above. It's not something that we could, through initiation, can cause it to come down. So we just explained number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 8, number 9, but not number, I missed and skipped, number 7. So number 7 is also consistent with this. Tishrei is the beginning of the fall and the winter, and Nisan is the beginning of the spring and the summer. What is the difference? The difference is that in the winter is a time where the sun is not so warm and we don't feel the sun so much, it's cold. And summer is a time we do feel the sun. What does the sun represent? So there's a pasuk, let's look up the pasuk. The pasuk is a pasuk in Tilim, and it's on page 13. Kishemesh Mogen Hashem Elokim. We had this in the Maimer also. That Hashem and Elokim are compared to the sun and the Mogen, which means a shield. What kind of shield? What do you need a shield for? The shield is to protect us. When Hashem took off the shield from the sun in the times of Avraham Avinu, people couldn't walk outside. The heat was too strong. So the same thing with Hashem. There are 2 names. One is Havaya and one is Elokim. The name Havaya shines a light which is infinite. If that light would shine, the whole world would no longer continue to exist the way we know it. So there's a shield. And the shield allows the light of Hashem to be sort of more diminished or weakened. And then the world can exist. And which name of Hashem does that? That's the name Elokim. So therefore, the sun shining represents Havaya, which is the infinite, the miraculous. Shem Elokim is Gematria. What's the Gematria of Shem Elokim? I'm sure you know that by now. Please. Hateva. So nature is Shem Elokim, and Shem Havaya is miracles. So therefore, summertime or the sun shining is connected to Pesach. Shem Havaya is being revealed in the world. And when the sun is more concealed, that's connected to Tishrei, which is Hateva. That's the Rosh Hashanah for nature. There's 2 questions, which believe I don't talk about it tomorrow. If I don't, you'll remind me. One question is, if I'm not a tzaddik, how does all this relate to me? So what am I supposed to do on Tishrei? I mean, Nisan. If Nisan is the time for tzaddikim, what am I supposed to do? Go to sleep? It's not relevant to me. Second of all, the mere fact that we have Tishrei and Nisan, and everyone has a Nisan and a Tishrei, that must mean that it's relevant to everybody, but it's not. Not everybody are tzaddikim, especially when you learn Tanya and you realize But the second question is, which one is a better or a higher Aveda? The Aveda of Tzadikim or the Aveda of Baalei Tshuva? Is a higher Aveda when Hashem gives me this gift from above, which is impossible for a human being to achieve on his own? Or is the Aveda, even if I achieve maybe less, but it's because it's through my Aveda? So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Amir Hashem. The advantage in one over the other. You've already guessed that in Chassidus, we don't allow too much jealousy. So therefore, we always explain that this Aveda has an advantage on the other, and the other Aveda has an advantage on this. So there's an advantage of miracles over nature, but there's also an advantage of nature over miracles. And in reality, both apply to all of us. We both have all of this in our personal lives. Okay, to be continued.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.